Hello, everyone. Dr. Ames here. What I'd like to talk about this time is the economic and the legal environments. Now, normally these would be separate topics and we would look at them a little bit differently, but the author of our textbook really has lumped them together and looks at these two environments from a certain sort of perspective. I just want to expand on that a little bit and then go ahead and follow along with the way the author is discussing these two topics. Really, we have to take into account the economic environment if we're going to do business. Now, if you're a budding entrepreneur and you have a business idea and you're willing to take the risk after you've studied all the factors and so forth, but the economy is not doing well. There's a high unemployment rate, maybe GDP is down possibly, or quarterly earnings from the big Fortune 500 companies is down. Maybe the stock market is unsteady and very volatile. And so you would say from maybe an economic perspective of just those factors alone, maybe it's not the best time to start a business. But a different person with a different idea in a different industry and so forth might look at all those same factors, and go, there's a real opportunity here because I think I have a way to make this work in my favor. So we're not immune from the things that happen out there in the economic sphere. In that dimension, it is how strong is your currency? Are people making enough money? Do they have money left over to spend on goods and services? Indeed, what is your standard of living and your quality of living? Now, the legal environment, the author doesn't talk as much about that, other in terms of how the government can really apply remedies and so forth to really enhance and further the pursuit of entrepreneurship and the growth of private business and private wealth. So the take from the author generally, when we combine these sort of two perspectives, is that government can promote entrepreneurship within our country and within our culture by doing those things that really promote the private ownership of business. And so enacting plans and pushing legislation to be passed that enhances the ability of individuals to go into business for themselves and to own businesses and so forth, because we know that small business in particular is really the backbone of our economy, and it's where most people are working and so forth. Now, when we look at the legal sort of side of this, like the author does, he's really talking about government can lessen the risk for you going into business by doing some certain types of things. In other words, one of those things the government could do is to minimize their interference with the free exchange of goods and services. So what does that really mean? To me, that means that maybe the government could not pass a lot of trade barriers, a lot of special duty taxes, and so forth. Minimize the interference means don't put financial burdens on the system if you want a freer exchange of goods and services. Don't get us in a situation where we have inflation or even deflation, which are concepts we'll talk about as we move along in the course. And then do encourage the Congress to pass laws that really enable business people to write contracts that they can enforce. Forming contracts is a real heart of some of the things you do in business. Certainly you want to lock up longer term relationships with suppliers and distributors who really are working towards your benefit. And then on a larger scale, on a more macroeconomic scale, we could say that the purpose of the things we have to look out for in the economic and legal perspectives in those dimensions is help us establish a national currency that's tradable in world markets and is something that people have faith in and confidence in. And certainly the dollar does have that. It fluctuates, it goes up, it goes down over time. But for now, it still remains the #1 world traded currency. And so that is in our favor when we go into business and indeed have to contend with globalization and so forth. And then finally, the last thing the government can do is minimize corruption. Make sure that the inspector generals and so forth have have the unfettered access to records and things they need to pursue investigations on both companies and individuals who are not acting according to the laws that everyone else is trying their best to follow. Okay, folks, that's all I want to talk about this time. I'll talk to you again soon.